Well, this is kind of like my version of Raging Bull, because there's a lot of bullshit that's raging. Let's kind of get into something for a moment about government by consent of the people. Basically, the social contract. I don't ever remember signing a contract, but when you think about it, the concept, and this was something I was thinking about because I was looking at this video about John Locke. John Locke, the philosopher. I didn't know that there was some character in a TV series named John Locke. I guess in this TV series called Lost. Um, anyway, I'm not talking about the character in that TV series. I'm thinking about the philosopher, an English philosopher from the 1600s named John Locke. And his whole, concept about government. Much of what makes up the United States government is based on the philosophy of John Locke. This whole concept of equal rights and all that sort of thing, and about the social contract thing. It's interesting because, is there a social contract? I was thinking about that all day today. I was at work thinking about, and I've thought about this many times before, more than just today, but I just thought about this video that sort of talked about that. We don't really agree to let the government control us. Yet the ideal of our government is based on this concept of social contract, that somehow we consent to having the government run our lives. Well, I think that that's more or less a practical, I would say more of a pragmatic thing. A pragmatic in the William James sense of being pragmatic. I don't ever remember consenting to the government running my life, but when you think about it, what other alternative is there? I mean, it's more of an imaginary thing. It's a kind of, if you did consent to the government, this is the kind of thing you would agree to. Well, actually, in truth, that's not the case. I don't agree with everything the government says. But you know what? It's better to have a government than to not have one. I don't know why 100%. I just kind of imagine things would be rather chaotic and life would be a lot harder if we didn't have a government. So in a funny way, we do consent. It's kind of almost a consent, however, by force, which is contradictory when you think about it. You don't really consent by force, do you? If somebody put a gun to your face, for example, and says, I want you to consent to this, you're not really consenting voluntarily. It's not even consent. Involuntary consent is not consent. Or the fact that you grew up in something, or you were conditioned into it. That's not consent. And the same thing applies to religion. You don't really consent to the religion that your parents, raise you in. You're conditioned into it. We're conditioned into our government. We're conditioned into our religion. And we're conditioned into our culture. So it's an interesting thought. That's all I wanted to say. I mean, I'm not raising a million questions, just thinking about it, that's all.